Okay, we're recording here. I'm going to now make you host.
Okay, perfect. I'd like to call order the Hopkinton Building Committee for today at 4:32 p.m. Before we start the meeting today, I wanted just to take a quick moment of silence for a community member that we lost over the weekend, Jen Quiet. And I just wanted to pause and take a minute of a moment of silence, please. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. So we're going to start this meeting by introducing our newest board member, Rob Nadeau, to our team. Rob joined the board about 3 weeks ago, and he'll be joining this committee replacing Jim, and I'm excited to learn from him. And he brings a lot of insight and a lot of knowledge. And Rob, feel free to please introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm looking forward to playing a role on the committee and seeing the project move forward. Been watching from afar for a while, and it'll be nice to be watching from a little bit more up close. So thank you, guys. I got a lot to learn to get up to speed on details, but hopefully it'll be quick. Thank you.
Perfect. It's great to have you here. So before we start with the agenda, there's just a couple things I want to say that in the past board meetings we've had, Jim's been pretty he made a good point about if we should all mute ourselves if you have a question to kind of ask to make it easier. That way we're not talking over each other. I don't think it's going to be an issue. You guys are welcome to jump in if you have something. Let's just try to respect if someone's talking. I'll just try to make sure we keep the window to the agenda so we're out by 6 because we have a lot to go through. As you know, this is being recorded and it's going to be uploaded to the public. So the governor has allowed us to have these specific meetings on video, and then we don't have to be present. I think, Steve, is there anything else you need to add to that? You know, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go through the agenda. We need to now make a chairperson and a vice chair to do this board.
Norm, I'm sorry to interrupt. May I ask one question?
Sure, of course.
Rebecca, I'm trying to take minutes.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Thank you.
No problem. But I just, I think I have everybody who's here, but I'm not positive. Is it possible just to do a quick go around just to make sure I have everyone?
Yes, that's actually, that would be good also for Rob to get to meet everyone also. So if you could please, yeah, if you could please quickly introduce that you're here so Rebecca knows. And that way Rob can put a name to the face, that'd be great too. So.
Doug Proctor, Architect, Turner Group. Bill Hickey, Turner Group.
Michelle Clark, Business Administrator.
Steve Chamberlain, Superintendent of Schools.
Jay Burgess, Building Committee.
Bill Carosa, Principal at Harold Martin School.
Amy Doyle, Principal of
Maple Street. Oops, sorry, Ms. Doyle.
And at Norm Grupel, I'm here too.
Rachel Marks, Turner Group. And Rebecca, at the bottom of your screen, there should be a button where you can see all the participants as well to confirm.
Yes, not everybody had actual names and there was a phone number in there, so that's why I was struggling a bit. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate it. So next order of business would be chairperson and vice chair for this board. And we have to do, for any action items, we have to state our name and what we vote for the record, just so you're all aware. So.
Norm, you want me to speak to this for a second?
Sure, please.
So as, if you weren't aware, Jim O'Brien became the chair of the Hopkinton School Board. At the last meeting, they gave committee assignments. Jim, due to his work as the chair, came off the building committee. Rob, as just introduced, joined from the as a board rep with Norm, and as Jim has been taking himself off the board and was the chair, it's now, as we start the next iteration of the next year, to elect a chair. It would be my pleasure to put Norm in nomination. He was on the committee before as a board rep, and put him in nomination as the chair of the building committee.
I'll second that.
So seconded by
So-
Jay and Michelle. Let me just, all those in favor?
Aye. Jay Burgess. is
Aye.
okay.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do a roll call, make it easier. So Jay Burgess.
I'm in favor. Aye.
Okay. Rob Nadeau.
Rob is a yes.
Steve Chamberlain.
Steve is a yes, thank you.
Michelle Clark.
Michelle is a yes, thank you.
Bill Croza.
Bill is a yes, thank you.
Okay. Amy Doyle.
Yes, thank you.
Rebecca and Chris.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Oh, thank you guys. Look forward to working with you and the committee. And thank you, Steve, for sharing the history and why Jim's chairing and why we are doing it this way. Our next thing on the agenda would be to nominate a vice chair for the board, for this committee. And I would love to have Michelle continue on that capacity. If someone could make a motion, if everyone's comfortable with her continuing, I would love to see that moving forward.
I'll make the motion. Steve will make the motion that Michelle Clark as a nominee for vice chair.
Second.
Okay, and let's do a quick roll call. Jay Burgess.
Jay Burgess is aye.
Norm Gupel, yes. Steve Chamberlain.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Michelle Clark. Oh, do you want to be vice chair, Michelle?
Yes, thank you for everybody supporting.
All right. Bill Carosa.
Yes, of course. Bill Carosa.
All right, and Amy,
Yes, thank you.
and then Chris and Rebecca.
I'll say yes for me. I would almost speak for Chris.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a problem. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Sorry it's a little difficult doing it this way with calling everyone's name out, but we have to put it on the record that way, and I appreciate you all being patient. So our next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from 3/3. If someone here would like to make a motion for those minutes, that would be great.
I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes of the March 3rd Hopkinton School Board Building Committee meeting.
I'll second.
Okay. Quick roll call again. Jay Burgess.
Jay Burgess is aye.
Okay. Steve Chamberlain.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Michelle Clark.
Yes, Michelle is yes.
Rob Nadeau. Did I miss you on the last vote, Rob?
You did. It's fine. Rob is a yes this time and last time.
All right, Rob. You're the best. I appreciate it.
No worries.
I'm going with the old roster on here. That's why. I'm sorry about that. So Michelle Clark, you already said yes. Bill Carosa.
Yes.
All right. Amy Doyle.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And Chris and Rebecca.
Yes, I say yes.
Perfect. All right. All right. Motion carries on the minutes. And Rob, I am sorry about missing you on the roll count. So next thing on the agenda is an update on the BPS contract. I guess Gordon, you'd probably have that. You gotta unmute yourself. You're muted.
Thank you.
There you go. Okay.
We knew we couldn't meet today and look you in the eye without having a signed contract. So therefore,
Yeah.
it was signed last Friday afternoon, and we are all set. So thank you for that.
So
Thanks.
we have
that
everybody.
helped push that along. Steve and Michelle and the Turner Group got that push. Thank you.
Perfect. So we're good to go. We have everything all set up now and perfect. Fantastic. Next thing on our agenda today would be the update on the well boundary and geotech survey.
Do that? Want me to do it? So how do we were in a I'll talk about the well. Okay. Go ahead. Oh, you're on, Doug. So just to update everybody on the well, we get about 13 gallons per minute out of the well. It would need a new pump if we were going to use it for a fire cistern. Took well was good enough to do all the research on that, and they're not going to invoice us for anything. So that's pretty much it. It's plenty of water for a fire cistern if we choose to go that way.
So the well would hold enough capacity to provide fire suppression for Harold Martin.
Yep.
That's great to know. Okay. All right.
Can you guys
Anyone have any questions?
Can you guys let us share the screen for a minute? Yeah, whoever is it? Norm has.
Yeah. So I'd make you share video or me on. I apologize. It's a whole new.
No, I get it.
How do you do I have to make them the host, Steve?
No, I think you can just give permission.
Okay, let me see.
I've never run it from that side.
It says mute chat, spotlight video, make host, stop video, rename, allow, record, put in a waiting room.
Is it allowed?
All right. Allow record, maybe? Let me see what that does.
This allows you to record this meeting. That's what it says over here.
Okay.
And that's not it.
No.
You want me to make you the host so you can share your screen?
Yeah.
I will do that. I'm going to reclaim host, and then I'm going to turn a group.
Well, I don't know if you're going to cut off the recording, but go ahead.
No, because I think I've been recording even when Norm's the host.
Okay.
All right, we'll give it a shot. Still recording.
May I ask a quick question before you go into the next part? I wanted to clarify. You said the current well can pump 13 gallons per minute, but it needs a new pump?
Correct. The pump in there is 20 to 30 years old.
Yep.
And it's probably oversized for what you need, meaning we need a new pump, but it could be a lot smaller because we don't have to have the amount of water that the school used previously. All we need to do is fill the cistern and then keep it filled.
Okay.
Now that you're a host, can you share your screen?
Yeah.
Perfect.
We just thought we'd share everybody. This is the survey. This is the parking area that we were concerned about possibly being on the neighbor's property. But as you can see, with the boundary line properly located, everything is on the school's property. So that's no longer a concern. So that was good news.
The other thing we're looking at is we have an alternate going into the drawings to add about 17 parking spaces right here. So that's why we had to do the wetland survey up in this area, and there are no wetlands up there, so we should be okay with that. The other thing, since we are looking at fire protection, is our addition is going right here. And then if we end up going with a cistern, we're looking at this zone in here to create that location. The well pump is right here where this dot is, right there. So,
Just stop share.
So
How much does a new pump go for anyway? Is it regular well pump for?
yeah, it's like 500, 600 bucks.
500, or so it's nothing like crazy or anything.
What I asked is, so if we end up feeding a cistern and everything, they said for all the work and labor and everything, budget $7,500 to put for the pump and to hook up to a cistern and all associated, and the controls and all that.
Okay.
So what was the next one?
All right. So
it says both geotech and survey. I think you know, we had the geotech done over February vacation. The results were great. Good material out there. So no real issues there either. So all good news.
That's great to hear. Anybody have any questions about the well boundary or geotech survey before we move on? Okay.
Norm, you want me to
Thank
make
you.
you back the host? Are you guys all set with your screen?
All set. Thank you.
You bet.
I'll need it back at some point.
All right, we can just leave it then.
Yeah, leave it. That's totally fine. All right. So the next thing on our agenda today is to talk about the COVID-19 impact on the building project pricing and timeline. Good topic. Who wants to speak to that? Gordon or Turner Group?
Well, let's have Turner start us off on what we're when we're going to be ready to bid.
Yeah, why don't I
And,
just give you a status of everything that's happened since the last meeting. So as you can see, we did the geotech and the survey and looked at the well pump and all that stuff. We also issued design development drawings. And so you just understand the phases that we work in designing. We have schematic design, design development phase, and then we have construction documents. And construction documents are what gets issued for bidding. Design development is where we're exploring different aspects of the design in order to create the construction document. We posted those to Procore, which is a site that BPS has set up for all the documents for the project. And those were posted March 24th. And since then, we've been working on construction documents moving forward. We had some, as we talked about at the last meeting, we talked about a different option for the addition to Harold Martin School. And what we've done there is scaled it back a little bit, but during that period of time, during the design development, BPS was costing out that option 4 to see if it actually worked. So we're a little bit behind on Harold Martin School, but we're on schedule with the high school and with Maple Street School. So what we've done is we've pushed up Maple Street and the high school from a May 5th delivery date to a May 1st delivery date, just 5 days, trying to get it out before the weekend. And then we've pushed the Harold Martin delivery date to May 19th. And the goal there was if school remains closed till the end, through the end of the year, with the bidding on Maple Street and the high school, we can take advantage of the schools being closed and possibly get the contractors early in the buildings earlier than June 20th or whatever, you know, after, when they typically let out, and probably get them in there by June 1st to June 5th, somewhere in there. And that was something that we talked about in the executive team meetings. Gordon, I don't know if you want to add anything to that with the bond work and everything that you're doing.
No, that would be consistent with what Michelle needs. So we're okay. We're just still trying to make sure that we meet Michelle's dates. And then I guess down to Barrett, they're ready to bid it.
Right.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate. Basically, they could start working on our facility project, even though there is social distance and all this. Are they considered an essential employee? I mean, obviously the schools.
Construction is considered an essential company.
But there are rules that have to be followed for all the social distancing and safe practices. So there's a set of established rules for all construction sites that they'll have to follow.
So there's a whole like thing that they have to regard being clean and all that stuff. And
yeah, the state of New Hampshire has issued guidelines for that, so they would just have to follow those.
Okay.
Bill, you're talking about the DOT guidelines. Those are the only ones I've seen. Is that what you were referencing?
That's pretty much what everybody's going with, Jay. Yeah.
We can let Keith and Barrett talk to it since they've been experiencing.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, you're on mute, Keith. Keith, you gotta unmute you. Yeah. You're muted still.
Oh, hey, look at that.
Hold on, is he? He's still muted.
Wait, use your phone.
No.
Hold down the space bar. Tap the space bar. Hold it down.
Yeah. Press spacebar. Maybe that works.
Or Control A. Control
You
Alt.
may have to be unmuted by the host of the meeting.
Uh-oh, that's Doug. Doug, one, there you go, upper right, unmute. There you go, you're on.
There we go.
Hey.
Wow, that's nice control to have.
That works slick, Doug. So, yeah, we're doing the, of course, the distancing and like that, but also we've approached it a couple different ways. For instance, presently, our Colonial Theater project is a busy project, and the way we approach that is gone to a 4-day week, letting it cool down if there are any germs or any COVID kicking around there, to give it those 3 days to cool down. Now, there's different opinions on how long that takes, but it seemed to build a lot of confidence with the guys, so we approach it in that fashion. From there, it's sanitization, same project, and it's one of our major ones right now, so that one is most relevant. We've got a couple guys full-time sanitizing doorknobs and touch points throughout the building, full-time every day. That's doors, tools, surfaces, and like that. Hopefully, by the time we get rolling on this, some of that will be less critical, but for now it's a pretty busy day following protocol.
Are you worried about having staffing issues, down the road for construction based on what's happening?
No, in fact, lately, over the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of calls, a lot of activity, especially with projects that folks know we have, like Hopkinton, or another one is I've got a library in Northampton. The phone is ringing pretty steady with people that wanna get a project. So I think you're gonna benefit nicely as far as bid activity and numbers on this one.
Okay. I'd love to see a nice little quality bid.
Me too. Makes the job easy,
Yeah, I bet, especially with raw materials now, right?
Yep.
They're very expensive. So it seems like everything's lined up to go. We just got to submit the application, from what I'm gathering from everybody. Is that?
Yep.
Okay. So based on what you're saying, there generally won't be an impact on this right now for this project, that we're moving pretty much potentially ahead of schedule if the school potentially is closed for the rest of the year, which we do not know. Everything is still lined up for a timeline.
Right.
Okay.
And maybe, Keith, you could talk a little bit about the bidding, how you're going to get the plans in your hand, as he said, between May 1 and then the next batch, the middle of May. You then have tell them how the bidding works.
I'd like to do a 2-week bid period. We can work through that, see where it falls in the week, but a 2-week bid period, and then follow that up with probably a 3rd week to review those bids, put individual package of bid recommendations to you, and then move from there into assembling that final guaranteed maximum price. So we're assuring that we're hitting the number, and then tying HL Turner drawings into that number, and finalizing that last piece of our agreement.
Steve, did you have a question?
Just that our latest last day of school, depending on what the board does with April vacation, is Monday, June 15th. The earliest last day of school, again, depending on what the board could do, is June 5th. So that's the window of the last day of school, depending on what we do with April break. So, so it's an early year anyway. So June 15th would be the latest. That would be the last day for the secondary school.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to let you know.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that sounds good that things are lining up to go. Anyone have any other questions regarding this? I don't see any hands. All right. Well, thank you guys very much.
I just have a quick question that came up at the board meeting about how the word gets out about the opportunity to bid. If somebody could just speak to that, that'd be great.
So
Yeah,
Keith, maybe you talk a little bit about that on how we're going to get the locals in there. Yeah.
So I could use some help on your favorite local papers, if it's the Monitor or wherever you want to head with that advertisement. Is one piece. The other is that we'll be loading up Doug's drawings into that Procore system and sending out individual bid invites to subcontractors that we know. Also reaching out to you guys and building an understanding of who you might have for important subcontractors or vendors in the system from your end, and making sure that everyone has free access to drawings and specifications and Barry's schedule, and issue those, give them a couple weeks to bid it, and then from there, as far as the local, Gordon, I think it's important to note that we'll be coming to you guys with bid recommendations so that you'll have the final say on who those people are.
Right. So Rob, Nadeau, for example, if you have someone that you want to suggest, again, it's not coming with any prejudice. Just say, here's 3 electricians I know. I'd put them in the mix, and they will then vet them and send them out to them. So don't anyone feel they need to hold back. If you have some vendor that you know, we'll then decide whether the vendor put it or not. That's up to us, but at least you got it off your plate. So send us any names.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll just make a list of the larger contractors in town and send it to Norm.
Right, and then what we do is we look at it to see if they're capable of doing the work, and if they're not, then we might peel off some small portion. So let's say you have a 1 or 2 person company, and we know it's going to take 5 people to do it. Well, we might take and give them a portion of something just to keep some of it local.
Sure.
At the end of the day, we want to spend the money as much as possible locally, but we don't want to pay a premium, and it tends to work out just fine. It'll all sugar off fine, as the saying goes.
Okay. Thank you.
So if we get the list from Rob, we would forward that to who? BPS or you? Who reaches out to these individuals?
Who do you want, Keith? Do you want them to just send them to you, or want to gather them all and then send them?
If they send them to you, Gordon, that's great, and then I'll compile those bid invites and get them out to everybody.
Okay, so go ahead and fill my inbox, folks. That is fine. Whatever you have, I will then organize them and send them off in a way to keep. So that's perfect. Thank you.
So the only other question I have is, when this bid goes out, it will also include bid numbers for the ad alts, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so once we get those numbers back, we'll be able to say, okay, we can go back to the school board and say, this is what we potentially can do with the additional funds, like fire suppression, for example. That way we have an understanding of what we could potentially look to do. Or we want to plan around for, with our CIP planning, what we want to budget for moving forward. So I'm just curious what those numbers will come back, and excited to see them. Any other questions on this topic? Thank you, Gordon, for answering that. Anyone else? All right. Next thing is the review scope calendar, costed and other documents from HL Turner and BPS since our last meeting.
So, like I said, we've been moving along on the design development. Al outstanding issues that we need to address are, there's a little bit at the high school that we need to resolve with the labs, and I'm getting that drawing information more detailed so that we can review with them. But I feel comfortable that we can move forward if for some reason we can't meet with them just because of everything that's going on. We had a pretty good, we were into our third meeting and had a pretty good understanding of what they needed. But I will send progress information along to Chris and see if they're okay with it, and he can forward it to the instructors. We did meet out there. We went through all 3 schools on Friday with our interior consultant and making her familiar with the different parts of the project, going through finishes and restroom renovations and different things like that. Looking at Maple Street with the add alternate for the increase to the computer lab. Looking at the different areas that need to be recarpeted, and looking at the restrooms and the ramp and everything seems to be going well with that. The other things at the high school we're looking at are the restroom renovations. There's some storage renovations with the locker room area, the replacement of the HVAC units. We're looking at roofs on all 3 schools. Bill was out to Maple Street School and identified some areas out there that need to be addressed on the sloped roof, correct? Correct. And there's also some areas on that roof that pond pretty well, which we should try to address.
Yeah, and they're small areas, which is good news. It's not necessarily a membrane that wants to be replaced, but anytime you have water just sitting on a roof or ponding on a roof, it's going to find a leak. So it would be good to peel that roof back and add some tapered insulation or something.
Where was that?
Maple Street.
At Maple? But I know, but which part of the roof?
It's kind of back behind the gym.
Correct.
The storage area over the next to the gym, I think.
Yep, there are 2 small roofs. One's at the very, I'm going to say, north end of the school, and the other's a small abutting roof to the cafeteria. I can send you some photos if you want, Amy, if that would help you, or I could locate them for you.
But we're also aware, Amy, that we have some leak issues at the joints where the roof steps down
Okay.
going to the back area.
That was the spot that I was wondering about, if when he went up there, what he found, like right, where the old building would have started.
Yeah, there's probably some flashing issues there that we can address. Yep. And since it's on the backside, we can just roof over the wall or something.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
What else?
Hold 1 second. So our last discussion about Maple Street roof, you guys had said it potentially did not need to be replaced right away. Are you guys suggesting it does now, or is it something we?
Just part of it, Norm. Just the front entry area where they slope is the majority of the school is in good condition, and those do not have to be replaced at this time.
We walked the roof with BPS got in touch with Eastern Exterior Roofing, which we've done a lot of work with, and they walked the roof with us at the same time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
The high school roof, metal. Want to talk about that?
Yeah.
So I guess, and Jay, I don't know if you have any information on this. We were never sure if the metal on the high school roof was included in the re-roofing or not. So what we've kind of done is come up with a method to re-roof the front section with leaving the metal in place, and then possibly do an alternate for doing the metal on that roof as well.
But there is a concern about leaving that metal.
Right.
What we did was the original scope ran out for the first permutation of the project ran out 30 years. So, or 25 years, I'm sorry, for the roof. So we had looked at doing more roof work. We pared a lot of that back. So I can't remember exactly where it fell, but I think with the understanding that we want to be looking out 10 to 15 years for any more CIP work. If we think that there's a potential for that metal roof to need attention between now and 10 to 15 years out, I think we want to look at it as an add-alt, as Bill suggested. I think that's a good approach. That way we can make a value judgment based on where we come in on the other items to see whether it's something we want to do or not. But I think it would be helpful if, as we're discussing it, if we had a rough idea what you might be thinking on the remaining life on that metal roof.
I don't know if the metal itself is in bad shape. It's the connections that they had going with the EPDM.
Yeah, when you transition from the membrane to the metal, that's the concern, is that it wasn't done properly and it's leaking.
Right, it wasn't done as indicated on the drawing, original drawings. So
a lot of that leakage you see in the cafeteria and up the hallway above the nurse's office happens right at those transition points.
So if it's currently leaking, then I would say that definitely should be part of this scope. But again, you know, it's a little bit murky about what we included and didn't include when we had to pare everything back. But I don't want to speak for Norm or Rob, but I don't think any of us would get out of town after spending 10 million bucks and still had roof leaks.
Right.
Right. Well,
we can work with Gordon and BPS. I mean, we have dollars per school, so we know the total roofing budget. And as the roofs come into focus, we can see what we have.
I mean, that's the goal for making all these alternates, is so that we can all evaluate, prioritize, you know, between the three projects. So.
I would definitely say a non-leaking roof would be the most important thing.
We'll call that the gold standard.
Right. Yeah. But no, we want to try and go into this, of course, you know, we don't want to have leaking roof after we say we're done with the project. That would just reflect differently on us.
We'll see, Norm. We can't control the weather, you know.
But I can instruct Gordon not to write a check too. So.
Oh, there you go. So apparently, Keith, he can control the weather to some point. He can make it rain or not rain.
We're kind of committed to making it dry in your building. So.
I don't know if anybody has any more questions about Maple Street or the high school, and then I can move into Harold Martin a little bit. Everybody okay?
I think, yep.
Don't be afraid to raise your hand on the screen either. Sometimes that's easier to see.
Steve, how do you raise your hand in this?
Host can't.
Oh.
Yeah. Everybody else at the bottom of participants, there's a raise or so no, but host can't raise hands.
Okay, that's why we don't see it.
You're in charge. You are the big cheese right now.
I think it's worked out great. People are talking and being respectful. I have no issues with how this is going. This is going great.
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go continue.
It's going so well. Oh well.
Yeah.
So going to Harold Martin, I'm going to share screen again here. If this goes okay. Where am I? So this is the reduced floor plan that we've developed, and Bill, don't be afraid to chime in here a little bit, because this might be new to you a little bit. So what we've done is so we still have the main office in the project, and this is an addition. Rob, just so you understand, this is the existing exterior wall location right here. So everything out here is addition to the building. Originally in the project, there was taking over half of this or a portion of this classroom to increase the main office, but they were losing a classroom to do that. And then the addition that was previously proposed over here, they were also losing a classroom to cut through to get to that addition. So what we decided with between three schemes a few months ago was to add on in this location, and that way we're able to maintain all the existing classroom spaces. So this is the main office addition. And what we have is, instead of a double vestibule, we just have a secure vestibule here. We create a little alcove over here for visitors coming in, and they can wait in the vestibule without being released into the rest of the school. There's also a doorway that people can get buzzed into the main office here. Or there's also a door here where occupants from the school can come in and access the main office without having to go out into the vestibule itself. Office manager would sit here. There's some file space and work area here. Principal's office in this location. We can also create a small area for the special ed coordinator here. So she could either sit out here in the main office, or we also have this storage room here. We can also turn that into a small office. We have a conference room in this location. So all visitors coming into the school for conferences can come in here, have a conference here, and not be released into the rest of the school, or we can, they can be released into a conference in a different classroom. The guidance office is in this location. It was requested that the guidance office be part of the main office, but also be accessed for students by students, so they can run special ed groups. So what we did is, through the existing exterior wall, we have a double door situation. So students can come in this way to her office, but then she can also have access to the main office, and anybody coming into the office for a conference through this doorway here. And then those doors could be secured in different ways so that you can't cut through. We took a restroom that was in the main office for the staff and moved it down into the existing portion of the building here, and then created a nurse's suite here with 3 cots, an office, waiting area, restroom, shower, and then a storage area there. The other thing we're doing with this nurse's suite, since this wasn't in the original project, is we can leave the existing main office as is, and that could function as a nurse's suite as an alternate. So what we've done, I'm sorry, as base bid. So what we've done is included this nurse's suite as an add alternate, but if we can't afford it, it can stay as is and become the nurse's suite, just as if the old configuration was in the main office. It just gives her more space to work and more compliant with HIPAA rules and stuff. We have the 2 classrooms over here. We just changed the configuration a little bit and pushed out a few feet so that we could move the stairwell that used to be here around the corner and decrease some square footage and try to save some money on the project. It's the stairwell still goes down to the lower level and out to the playground, so that you can access the playground that way instead of going through the multi-purpose room. And then we have a small mechanical room down on the lower level as well. And this is where we might need some help if we're incorporating sprinkler in, is how this gets configured, because we'll have to create a fire pump room. Going up to the 2nd floor, this is actually the alternate plan in the 2nd floor. Base bid plan would be a corridor that just comes around here and goes that way to these classrooms, and we create a small niche here, a glazed niche. The add alternate is to create some additional staff restrooms, a custodial space, and the multi-purpose space here. And Keith, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about budget on these items, on how we kind of came to the conclusion that the multi-purpose room should be an add alternate.
Well, I guess our last meeting, we were looking good to about $250,000 on it. So we took Doug's, and that was based on an assumption of, I think, $500,000, was it, Doug, in that square footage reduction?
Right. And the thing we didn't realize in that square footage reduction is that some of it was base bid reduction, but a lot of it was alternate reduction.
That was the bummer, is that a bunch of that, because it was a really cool plan. It was just cutting down on square footage that wasn't included in that base bid. So we reran the numbers on Harold Martin, and it kicked out that it was $243,000 over where we wanted it as far as the total project went. Now that said, that puts us about 2.9% over where we want to be. I think we're in good shape to move forward with, and that exercise kind of proved out that we're in good shape to move forward with design, move into design development, and get this thing bid out and see where we land. I think we're in good shape for the preliminary nature of that effort.
So Doug, the difference really is just the add-all now would be the enhanced nurse's office and the extra multi-purpose room, right?
Correct. And the difference between that older plan is we had that other multi-purpose room down on the lowest level, which is now just foundation area.
Right. Not bad.
The multi-purpose room is above the office, new office?
Correct.
What would, if we don't do that, it's just a lower roof, just nothing is just enclosed?
Right, what you'd see approaching the building. So here, I'm gonna go share screen again. Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm looking for the tab. I'm looking for this. So, you guys see that? Okay.
Yep.
So right now, this is showing the alternate view of the front of the approach up to the building. So this is the secure entrance. This is the main office, principal's office, conference room back here, and then this is the multi-purpose room upstairs. In base bid, what you would see is just a small section of glazed corridor that just peeks out from the rear here and then turns and goes into the classroom.
Gotcha.
And the rest of that would be flat.
Thank you, I appreciate that, I got it now.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. Looks great, though.
And then this view over here is classroom wing, stair tower coming down, end of corridor. We create a little niche there, so you could, if you had to take a student out to a table to have a test or something, you had the end of the corridor to do that. And then this is the other exit out, that basement area. So students can either come out this door of the playground, or we like to create a direct means of egress by code out of stairwell. So we've done that here at this location, because you don't have that the way that your existing stair works at the present main office. So, and then this is the existing gymnasium back here. So.
That's good.
I got a quick question on the this is Rob, the multi-purpose room. How big is it?
It's about 700 to 800 square feet. It's in flux right now because we're working through the structure.
Yep.
But what we've done is we've been creating these spaces because it gives us space where the kids can come out in more than just their one classroom. They can come out with 2 or 3 classrooms and receive instruction, and they're just sitting on the floor. It's just an open space that you can use for general items. You can even have meetings up there if you need to or something. And then we usually create a one wall that's just a whiteboard wall that you can provide instruction from, and then possibly on an alternate wall we have a video screen or something like that, just to give the instructors all different kinds of options for developing different kind of teaching methods.
So 800 square feet, like 20 by 40, what's the dimensions? I'm just thinking about what the space would be used for, and that configuration would change that, I would think.
Rob, one thing it would be used for, I'm hoping, as it stands now in Herald, we have to use the multipurpose room for both phys ed or wellness and lunch. It would allow us, it would free up the schedule a lot so that we could have some health or wellness classes going on while lunch is going on. That's, you know, in my mind, that's one great option of that if it really happens.
Good point.
But right now, it might come out just because of structure. We might bring it out to this line right here, so it might grow 2 or 3 feet, but it would simplify the structure. But yeah, it just becomes an open space where different classes can sign up for using it at different times of the day. Also, if for some reason you can't go outside because it's too cold or something like that, it just gives another space to have kids in.
So dimension wise, I'm still sort of trying to get my head wrapped around that. Maybe I missed it.
Honestly, I can't scale on this program. I want to think it's probably 30 by 25.
Okay, thank you.
Looks good.
Any other questions on Harold Martin? The other thing, Bill, so just so you understand what I've done, I haven't really done anything with this area here on the special ed, just because of the way the budget is. We're gonna try to make these 2 sets of restrooms handicap accessible here. And then and because we're moving the IT office down here, we'll gain this office, and the guidance is moving into the office, we'll gain this office. But if for some reason we make out great on the bidding or something like that, we'll come back and revisit this reorganization and see if we can make that better for them.
Yeah,
If
from
you're
my
okay with
perspective, that would be a priority if you could.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Would that be considered an adult if that came back at a different bid process, that specific section?
That would be yeah, so it would end up being a change order.
Okay.
But it could be, Keith, chime in how you might view it. I mean, if for some reason we're making out great on bidding and everything and the project is going well, then you might have owner contingency, which you could devote to something like that.
Sure.
Bill, is that more of a priority than the multi-purpose room in terms of everyday use? The special ed segment?
I would think so, except I'm sure the cost difference is pretty significant. Wouldn't you say, Doug? They're not even in the same ballpark, I would think.
Yeah,
Doug?
yeah. It's probably a little more. I mean, I think this work here is rather simple because it's drywall and doors and just reworking some ductwork and stuff. It's just that initially we were having discussions and couldn't really get the space to work the way that they wanted. So yeah, I felt more comfortable approaching it later, but we can do whatever you guys want.
Okay.
Looks good. Does anyone else have any questions?
We're also renovating, just so you know, Rob, we're also renovating these restrooms here and here. So.
Do you have anything else to share, Turner?
I think so. We're just progressing along on our
Okay.
construction document schedule.
Okay. And anything from BPS on this?
Oh, Jay, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. I just I wanted to mention to the group that this is one of the benefits of continuing down the path that we have with a construction manager and an architecture and engineering firm. These are discussions that we wouldn't really be able to have if we had gone another route. So I think we're seeing the benefit of the decisions that we made earlier in the process to go this way. So hopefully everybody's happy with that.
Yeah. I think it's been a great pace, you know, going through this. We hired Gordon for, well, an attorney than Gordon, and it's worked out really well with the communication. If there's nothing else with this, move on to next on the agenda, which would.
I thought about one other thing, Gordon.
Okay.
Do we need to, since we're getting through the building stuff, do we need to talk about sprinkler right now?
Let's talk about sprinkler. Start with
So
what you.
let me go through how this all kind
Yeah,
of.
you start. I'll pick up.
Okay, let me go through how it all kind of came about. So a couple of weeks ago on our executive call, we were having a discussion about sprinkler and how to achieve it and the cost and everything. And again, it's an ad alternate as well. And in that discussion, what we kind of said was, if we're going to do this, we need some additional help in kind of designing it. If it's going to be a cistern with a fire pump and possibly a generator and things like that. And when we were on that call, the school district felt that at some point a sprinkler is going to go in this school, so we want to prep the building for that. So what we're kind of trying to do is figure out what is our base limit. One is design the sprinkler system for the alternate, but two, what is the base limit that what we'd have to provide for infrastructure with the addition going in and everything, that we didn't in a couple of years come in and install a sprinkler system and disturb work that we're doing right now. So the other part of that call was that there were some items in the NFPA code that kind of led you that you didn't have to sprinkle your addition because it's so small, but anything that we change on the inside of the existing building needs to follow the new code, which the new code basically says you have to sprinkle. So it's kind of a gray area. And I wanted to have this kind of research done so that we can go into the state fire marshal's office and have a discussion with them about how to proceed with this. Because not right now, but in a few years, you know, any new educational building will need to be sprinkled. That's neither here nor there right now for this discussion. So what we've been doing is on the Turner Group side, we've been researching what would be required for putting in a cistern and everything like that, as you know. And then on the other side, Gordon has been looking at the water district and seeing what's in place and what could be achieved so that possibly we don't have to put in a cistern, and what we need to do for the infrastructure in the addition to get that ready for a sprinkler system. So Gordon, I don't know if you want to go from there.
Right, and so what we've been doing is, again, we've had Turner going down the path of the traditional, you know, cistern with the fire pump. And what I've been trying to do is figure out if there's any way we can tie into the local fire district's water line that goes in front of us. So I made a few phone calls and done some looking, and so far we haven't seen any showstoppers. Although you folks are local and you may know something I don't know, but started with the fire chief, and come to find out we actually have an 8-inch line going in front of our road out there. So we have the luxury of a size of a pipe that's capable of fire service going by our front yard. Number two, your fire district is in the process of putting in 30,000 gallons of water into a tank back at where they currently have their water stored. And I sent that out in an email to many of you. So they are going to be suddenly now having a 30,000 gallon water source across town at the point of their beginning of the line. So what we're simply now trying to say is can we use that water, go through the 8-inch pipe, and then we would have to bring in either a 6 or a 4, whichever our size needs to be, into our building and not have to put a cistern on our front lawn. So we're spending a little bit of an aside right now saying, is there a way we can use the town's water capability or the water district's capability and not have to put a cistern in? We might have to put a fire pump in or help them with that. So if you hear some chatter around town, that's what's going on parallel to what Turner's doing. Now, do any of you know any things that would be showstoppers on this yet? Because again, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop on this, but I'm sort of looking at Jay because he knows the town. You know where all the bodies are hidden here.
I haven't heard anything more than what actually most of what you said, Gordon, is news to me. So that's great. I would say that if we could run that, that would definitely be a superior plan. We'd be on the hook to bring a smaller line in from the street, but considering everything else that's going on, I think that would be small potatoes compared to a cistern and a fire pump and all the apparatus that would be needed to support a cistern type system in front of the school.
Any timeline, Gordon? I thought I've heard that kind of thing for a while, that they were going to do a big upgrade, and but any timeline on their completion?
They're ready to be shovel ready right now. I talked with Rich Armstrong, the commissioner, and also you have the other commissioner, Sandy Bender, from over at the, and both seem pretty savvy on this, and they are ready to begin construction on their project. They may be a little shy on money, but they're just about, by shovel ready, it sounds like within a month or two, they're ready to start theirs. So the next thing for us to do is, on the one hand, we have Doug, who's got a proposal to go forward with the cistern on our property proposal, or number 2, that we try to go this route. So I'm suggesting that maybe Doug go on hold for just a couple days, where this all has to be done within days because we want the spec sheets to be out. And I think the next thing would be to talk to the water district's engineer, which is Du Bois and King, and just get what I call a back of the envelope. Folks, do you think this will work? How much water can you send us through that pipe? And without going to a fully engineered system, just to get the rough idea. Doug, is that consistent with what I've been telling you? And if I've forgotten anything.
Right. The only thing with sprinkler systems and public water is you can always have a lot of water there, but you might not have the flow rate that you need for the sprinkler system to operate. Meaning you have to be able to flow a certain amount of gallons within a certain time period for different areas of the school. And usually the most stringent areas of the school are the kitchen and storage areas and such. So that's where if everything's there and the flow rate is fine, you can come straight off the water to feed the sprinkler system. But if the flow rate's not there, the water might be there, but we'd have to increase the pressure by putting in a fire pump or something like that.
And that's what Du Bois could tell us is, yes, you have to put in a fire pump, and let's say that's, I'll just throw a figure out, let's say that's $80,000. It's still way less than what we're talking about doing on our own. So I think with you, unless I see some you folks chime in differently, we might run for a few more days with this and get a hold of Du Bois and see what do they think they can send us for water in the currently engineered town system. And then if we think that's going to work, then we might go to the next level of engagement where we go to Doug's folks and say, now, get ready to put in an engineer's stamp on that. So then we know what we're really getting. And then of course we'd have to go through the whole process of the water district saying, okay, and all that. But I'm getting a sense that they are in favor of anything they can do to help. So.
Right. So the proposal that, just so everybody's on the same page, the proposal that Gordon is referring to is a proposal from SFC Engineering, which is a fire protection engineer. And the proposal is for $17,000 to assist with design for the sprinkler system and the cistern. So basically helping with the design to get to the point where a sprinkler subcontractor can take over and complete the design within inside the building. It's basically coming everything just before the outlet of the fire pump into the building. The other thing they included in there, if we need it, was $1,500 to work with the Water Commission and Du Bois and King if we want to go that route. And then there was $2,000 of code consulting in there. So the whole thing was $20,500, but $2,000 of that was coming out of our fee for the code consulting. But it would be a contract through to the Turner Group, but it would be an additional service since the sprinkler was never part of the original project.
So 20,000
for this group to give you an okay tonight, this committee to approve that? Is that what? How are we going to leave you with the tool you need tomorrow?
Yeah, at this point, it sounds like we need to wait a few days, right, Gordon?
Yeah.
Well, I think we should run with this idea for another day or two, talk to Du Bois and see what they're thinking, and then we would engage your folks to put the final stamp on it, that yes, it will indeed work. I think we still need to see if we hit a showstopper somewhere along the way. Somebody may say, you know what, that pipe was never designed to have this much flow through it, and then we're back to your.
Gordon, I've got some sequence questions here again, partly because I'm late to the game. So the sprinkler system is an alt, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and what's the projected price tag for that?
BPS, Keith, you had it like 530,000.
Yeah. Yep.
That's for the cistern, the pump, and the distribution system within the school.
Okay. And the $17,000 or the $20,000 you're talking about would give us the information we need to find out if it's viable at that price. Am I correct in what I'm hearing?
Well, it gives us, so if we're looking at a cistern, what it does is it gives us a good design so that we get a good bid number from a sprinkler contractor.
Okay. So I guess in my mind, I think you really need to make a decision about whether you're going to spend $500,000 on a sprinkler system before you spend $20,000 to determine the viability of the system. I mean, it just, $20,000 is a lot of money. And to spend $20,000 and then decide a month or two from now that that's not an option that we want to go with, seems like $20,000 not well spent.
The problem is, Rob, we don't know if it's going to come in at 500,000. You know, it has to go out for a bid process, and in order to get a thorough bid, they need to be able to do some research to make sure it's sent out correctly. Is that correct, Gordon?
Well, I'm going to look more to Keith. What we're doing at this point is we are using intelligence based on history that tells us that we're about 530,000, right, Keith? We've done other systems recently, and if you put it all together, this is kind of close.
And if your work pans out here, Gordon, that number gets smaller.
Exponentially smaller.
Yeah.
The other thing in this proposal is that if it pans out that the water district is working, then $5,000 comes off this number. And The other thing I think that's important is at some point, you're gonna have to sprinkle this school, I would say.
And I think that's where it came from, is that that design is going to be necessary at some, we heard Jay loud and clear that at some point this community would like that sprinkled. It was unfortunate that we didn't have a good number to bring to the town last March. But Doug, that plan would last for until we did it, right? That's a plan that we could use at any time when we pulled the trigger.
Right, you'd have all the research and the base information to just go ahead and complete the plan.
So this is a more likely than not rather than an alternative condition.
Rob, I don't know if that's a big number, and I don't know if that number is going to be in the margins. But what we talked about at one of the executive calls was that any new construction or anything that they can do that we wouldn't have to do again, prepare the site, the new space for sprinklers. Because we certainly don't want to 3 or 4 years or whatever go in and make new holes and pay for that twice. And then separate, whatever beyond that it would take. If it took 300, 200,000 maybe within the work that's going to have to be done someday, you do now because it's cheaper when the ceilings are open and all that. And then, see where we are with the CIP, see where we are with putting money away for this project. Maybe it's 200, maybe it's 300, and looking where we are in the next couple of years. Because what was on all the presentations we did, that there's a couple of things that we didn't hit. This is one of the things we didn't hit. And Rob, this was right after the library.
Oh, right.
That library experience put a lot of attention on the sprinklers for this project, because that's when I was doing the rounds.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
So just let me try to run it this way and see if this works for you, so that we don't hold up a tool you need. What if I run with this idea of the water district for 1 week, and then if it looks like it has legs, we'll come back to this group. If it doesn't look like it, then it will come back we'd come back in a month, and we would have to vote for we would recommend to vote for your bid that you have in front of you, because we should have that sitting there done, whether we do it now or in a few years. I hear what Mr. Nadeau is saying, though, that we don't want to pay for a study that's not going to ever get used. I don't think we're ready to do that today, is what I'm sensing. We're not ready to vote on that today.
Doug, how does what Gordon's work impact the plan? Are these mutual? Is one before the other? If Gordon's work does, the precinct is going to, that 30,000 gallons is going to provide us the flow we need, so that fundamentally changes the plan that would be developed by SSC? Or is one dependent on the other, or is one independent, I guess I'm trying to say?
The only thing I need for our drawings is, if we're putting in a fire pump, I need to know where it's going and get it in the floor plan, because it has to be in a rated room and everything. And then also, if we have to provide a generator, we need to put the infrastructure in for that, which, could be some sleeves or something. But again, we're trying to do this whole system as an alternate. So we need to have it all designed and drawn and everything so that we can issue it as an alternate.
I think the community would be very supportive of having that piece in the bank on the shelf ready to go through this project, because it's a necessity now or sometimes. Jay, do you have a sense on that at all, or you think I'm all wet?
No, I'm on board. I think if we look at, one of the things that we heard clearly was that this was something that should have been in the original project.
Yeah.
But the main reason it wasn't is for all the reasons that we're talking about right now. We didn't have a good idea from the precinct, which it sounds like Gordon has solved. We didn't know what the final design was going to be and where we would stand with code compliance. So with that, and combined with what I think was an unrealistically low number from Harriman, and what I think we all agree was an unrealistically high quote from Meridian, a single quote, we weren't comfortable moving that forward. But it's definitely something I think that the community is going to want to see if we can. Unfortunately, you know, it's going to cost us 20 grand to see the cards, I guess is, you know, the Vegas analogy. And not that $20,000 isn't a bunch of dough, but considering what, you know, what we had heard, I think we'd get some negative feedback if we didn't move forward. Unfortunately, we need to see we're going to need the 20 grand to really, within the next, correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, within the next couple of weeks as we get into the design work for us to get a good package that can get out there and be bid.
Right, and that's the other thing with SFC is that they've agreed to our schedule with the production of this by May 19th. So
I have a question. So this design base, the fire chief would be part of the process of answering any questions regarding code and all that, correct?
He and the state fire marshal.
Okay. Where I'm, you know, you guys know where I stand on fire suppression. You know, I'm, you know, after what happened with the library, I'm very sensitive to protecting our investment, especially with this bond. I'm worried that we won't get an accurate number for a good bid process if we don't do our homework. And I guess that's where I'm a little conflicted on this. I want to be able to send this out to bid with all the information, because in my heart, I really hope that this comes back at a reasonably bid that we can add this into the project.
And that's where we're coming from, because we know we can put out a performance spec that covers sprinkling the building, you know, from an adequate water source, but it's the design of the water source for this particular building that needs to be looked at.
I guess my question for Steve and Michelle, if they know this answer, can this committee make a recommendation without the school board's approval on 20,000? Because we don't meet until next week.
Yeah, I mean, the board hasn't approved like the other actions, the geotech and stuff like that. It's a contract with Turner. I mean, if it is above our bid threshold, our bid is what, 15, Michelle?
Yes.
I mean, really, it's 18.5 to you guys. It's not 20. 2,000 of it is ours.
It would go in the soft cost of the project, right?
But if you feel more comfortable, Norman, waiting for the school board for next week and getting their input, that will not harm the schedule on our part.
Right. We've already released SFC to help us with the code review portion of what we need.
But will you make it in time? Will you make it in time for? So our next school board meeting is next week. And when did you need this information in order to put out for the bid?
Probably shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I mean, they would need to get started within a week or so.
The next meeting's the 16th.
So if we put it on the, I mean, Rob's made some good points. I mean, I believe, you know, in order before we have this big test, you know, we got to do a little bit of homework, and I want to make sure we're doing everything right before we decide to commit, because the school board is going to determine whether or not they want to add on the fire suppression. You know, we'll discuss it here and make a recommendation. I definitely, my feeling is I don't want to have this be after. I want it during the construction part. You know, I think it makes sense that when we're done, it's fully protected, but I understand there is a budget and there is numbers that we have to look at. I want it to go out to bid to make sure that whoever's been bidding on it knows exactly what they're bidding on. And if we got to potentially invest 18,000 into it and we have Chief Yale on board, it would make sense. But I want to get the other feedback of the other people too.
Yeah, we can go to the board. It can be on the agenda next week, no problem.
Okay. Would it make sense for someone to kind of, maybe Turner, you can come in real quick? We can make it one of the first things on the agenda and you can kind of explain the importance of spending this 18,000. Do you think that's possible? Sure. Steve, would you be okay with that?
Absolutely. And Gordon, can you join us too? And be a Zoom meeting like this.
You're muted, Gordon.
I'm sorry about that. What day is the school board? Yes.
16th, April 16th.
We'll be there.
Is that 6
Okay.
o'clock?
It's 5:30.
5:30.
5:30?
And we'll
Jay's
we'll
got a
put,
question, Norm.
yep, Jay, please.
Should this committee recommend at this point to the board one path or another?
Yeah, I would say that's a good time, because then we could have it be an action item. We could do it at that meeting. So are you looking to make a recommendation right now, Jay?
Yeah, I think I'd like to move that we recommend the board approve a $20,000, up to $20,000 expenditure to do the due diligence we need to move the process forward.
I'll second that.
Okay. So I'm going to do a quick roll call. Jay?
Jay says aye.
Okay. Rob?
Yep. Rob says
Okay.
yes.
Steve Chamberlain?
Yes, thank you.
Michelle Clark?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Bill Croza?
Yes, thank you.
Amy Doyle?
Yes, thank you.
And Chris or Rebecca?
Yes. Can you just
Okay.
repeat Jay, could you repeat your motion just so I make sure I have it correct?
I kind of did it off the top of my head, so I might have to wing it.
Yeah.
So you wanted to make a recommendation to the school board to spend up to $20,000
To do the due diligence needed to get a sprinkler package that's viable, biddable as part of the full package.
Okay, thank you.
And Norm Gupel is a yes. So the motion carries to make their recommendation to the school board for $20,000, up to $20,000 to explore this option. So thank you, Jay, for making that. We're getting close to running out of time. I know we all want to catch dinner.
Norm, Rob's got a question.
Yeah, sure.
Just a real quick question. So when that would go out to bid, would they be bidding on complete fire suppression sprinkler, and also what it would cost to get it set up for down the road? So two options. Is that the way that would work?
Correct. Yeah, it would either be infrastructure to set it up for the future or the whole thing.
Thank you.
Right.
All right. Do we have any more information regarding this line item?
I think we're done building stuff.
Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle for financial report.
Sure. On the Google Drive, there was the two documents. One comes from the financial system, and then the other is the Google Sheet that breaks out the contracts. So as you all can see, by the end of March, that we've spent just under $79,000.
Perfect. Did anyone have any questions about the financial report for Michelle? All right, perfect. Last thing on the agenda is the bond schedule and update on process.
Sure, so I can go over that a little. So I have completed the bond application, the first part of it anyway. Steve has reviewed it, signed it. So the plan is to get that out tomorrow. That just starts the process. Now, no worries here, because in the application, it's going to say 20 years because we have to put something in. There will be a mock bond sale that is done after all the preliminary applications are collected, and we will be able to, based on what we see happens in the mock for rates, revisit and potentially make a change if we wanted to entertain going to 15 years or staying at 20. But we will have up until the middle of June to be able to do that, because we'll need to have the loan agreement or the bond agreements sent back to the bond bank by around the 20th of June. And those documents have to have the real thing in it.
So when you say mock, does mock mean that that's what the rate will be?
No, it's a good indicator though. So it's really
Okay.
like kind of like a blind bid per, like it's just to get a gauge of what's going on. So for Rob that's new, because we've talked about it before, the January sale for the bond bank was very, 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 very good. And you can see from the bond schedules that I put in the Google Drive of like what the bond interest rate came in at for that sale. The unfortunate thing is with COVID-19, it's in the financial market, it's thrown a little monkey wrench into things. Not anything to be worried about yet, because actually Steve and I were on a call earlier with our bond counsel, and it's moving it back into the right direction. How far it gets to the right direction of where we were before COVID-19 hit, time will tell. But I guess it's more likely that we potentially might not be able to look at entertaining anything different other than 20, which, mind you, will be good because we were going with a 3.75% interest rate. I can't imagine it being that, even with the hiccup of the COVID-19 outbreak. But the good thing is we will have that kind of sense, and a lot of communities will, once they do that mock bond sale, and we'll have some time.
But to be clear, we will have the opportunity to potentially go to 15 years if we'd like.
If we want to, yeah. So really now it's look at the information that's kind of out there with the, I don't want to say dummy ones, but the hypothetical ones. And what it might mean is we might have to, as we're getting closer to this, meet more than monthly. Because it's going to be something potentially that we're not going to be able to wait. Our next meeting is May 5th, with obviously that doesn't apply to anything. But then the one after that is, early June. So, we just might have to change a little bit from our once a month, meeting.
And that's fine. I spoke to Steve briefly, and Tuesdays have been working well for everybody. If there's any changes on that, to please let us know. I was very, very happy with the 1.83% on the 15-year, and I guess the plan would be is that this committee would make a recommendation to the school board on securing what terms we do. So, and that's something Rob and I we can discuss, because it affects the tax rate, for multiple years. So we want to make sure that we're on the same page with what we can save with the community.
Right.
This is great. Any other questions for Michelle, or any other questions at all?
Norm, I have one. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm embarrassed to ask who seconded Jay's motion.
Steve did, I believe,
okay,
right?
that's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Any other questions at all? Listen, before I adjourn the meeting, which...
Oh, Jay has a question.
Oh, Jay, okay.
Yeah, just a quick question. Do we have a date for the district meeting fixed yet?
May 9th right now, but we're not, we're monitoring it.
Okay, fair enough. If that moves back, Steve, do you think we should consider some kind of update, press release, something like that, to let people know where we are? I think my guess is that people were on the edge of their seats waiting to hear from us in March, and now that has been moved back and conceivably could be moved back again, there might be some interest in the community to find out all the progress that we've made.
Absolutely. Yep.
Rachel, you're doing some stuff online, right? You're mute.
I'm not doing anything, Norm.
No.
Yeah, we just, Steve just posted something today. So I think we're due for another newsletter, so we can put that out and decide on a date depending on when we want to get that information out to the town before the next meeting.
Okay, perfect.
So you and I can follow up with that.
Perfect. Listen, any other questions at all? Comments? All right, before I adjourn the meeting or ask for a motion, I just want to say thank you for all you guys coming today. I really appreciate it. And please be safe with your family. And thank you to Steve and his team for providing a great education to the students. It means a lot as a parent. He's been doing a great job, his team. With that, may I please have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. Thank you, guys. Have a great